Part One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to Art One-on-One. I'm your pod boss, Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Yes. How are you
Wonderful.
today? We're back at another fun-filled pod experience, and yet, this is probably the 5,000th location that we've done in 5,000 episodes, but...
It's a good thing we are flexible.
Yeah, we haven't done 5,000. I'm embellishing a little bit.
Yes, and if I were you, I'd be like, we haven't done 5,000, because
we haven't.
That's what you do, because you're just literal all the time.
I don't know how many episodes we've done, but it has not been 5,000. And this chair?
Well, sit still then.
I gotta sit still or we're gonna blow people's eardrums out with this thing, so I apologize for the chair things. And once again, the crisp, cool drinking beverage of Pepsi Cola, who should be a sponsor of Art One-on-One.
This shirt kind of makes you look like you actually have some muscles in there. I like that shirt on you.
Thanks.
Okay, well, let's start off with our normal...
It's all the shirt. It's not the guy.
It's true. It's how you're sitting, too.
Anyway, go ahead.
As I was saying...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you for rudely interrupting.
I apologize. I was distracting myself.
With yourself?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to start our regular segment called Ask the Art Guides.
Ask the Art Guides is the longest thing we've done.
Running segment.
Yep.
That we have had. Correct. And
yes.
We didn't do it last week, so we are going to dive into it this week. And the card I pulled was Gilbert and George.
Gilbert and George. I know a little bit about Gilbert and George, but not a ton. They're kind of I know that it's a team, but I don't know a whole lot about them.
I don't know anything about them.
Oh, well, perfect.
Well, I'm going to let the cards tell us what we should talk about. That's the point of it.
But the point of the whole thing that we're doing with the cards is to allow that to foster the conversation. So
good. So the inspiration that I have chosen on the card says, "Your work should not be selfish."
Okay. Your work should not be selfish. What do you think that means?
Well, I mean, to me, it's like, and I don't know how, I guess I think I know your feeling on this, but it's kind of like, if you do something bad or selfishly, I'll be like, karma. I say that to you quite a bit. I'll be like, karma. Or...
Karma chameleon. Boy George.
Karma, meaning you...
Culture club.
No,
80s.
Meaning you're getting what you deserve or you reap what you sow. And in this case, I think that's kind of like the thing. If your work is selfishly driven, then to me, you're probably not going to be so successful. But I'm sure you're going to give me a million examples in the art world of cases that are not that way.
I will. I can.
Let's hear them.
Well, the thing is, with Gilbert and George, I know that it's a group. I know it's like two guys that...
That's a group? It's a pair.
It's a pair. They construct a group. They show together, Gilbert and George. They... I've got a show coming up in Des Moines. This is off topic.
Oh, boy.
But I've got this show coming up in Des Moines, and so I give them my materials and sending all of the things, and they're like, hey, just so you know, Mr. Burgher, we want to know what your real name is. We want to be able to promote you in the show, but we can't promote you unless you tell us your name. And I quipped back. My name is
that a word?
It is.
Quipped?
Look it up. I quipped back. My name is Mr. Burgher. Everything that I do is Mr. Burgher. I promote myself as Mr. Burgher. That's my shtick. That's my gimmick. That's my alter ego. That's my pen name. That's my whatever. So.
And he would not give them his regular name.
I could not, would not. With the house, I could not, would not in a mouse.
Oh my gosh, shut up.
But no.
So explain to me how this revolves around Gilbert and Cook.
George.
Or Gilbert and George. Wait, what's Gilbert? Oh, Gilbert and Cook is somebody. It's in my other world. Somebody I know.
Yeah, that's
Gilbert and
that's
George.
Not this,
so explain to me how this.
So what I do is it is selfish. It's my ideas. It's my thing. It's my whatever. You look at an Andy Warhol, a Bridget Riley. You look at a Michelangelo Buonarroti. You could go way back in history to artists that have been doing this. And over and over again, we see examples of artists, like the main artist gets the glory. They hire other artists to do labor and running around and mixing paint or whatever the case might be to help the main artist accomplish their goals and their whatever they got going on. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, the fact of the matter is that the main artist is the main artist, and it is a lot of times selfish.
I don't know why you would say, just because you use your name, you think that's selfish?
I think because it's like when Andy Warhol was in the factory, there were many artists in there that were helping and assistants and whatnot. And it's not, I can't speak to what it was in the factory because I was never there. But what I can speak to is that everything that came out of the factory had Andy Warhol's name on it. It was never another artist. It was never another name. It was never another entity or business or whatever. It was always Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol was the foundation. He was everything that everything was built on. When I show my work, I'm the only one. And so I don't have...
You're not a group?
I'm not a group. So everything that's done relies upon me to do it, clearly. I think that when you've got a group like Gilbert and George in this, for instance, you're sharing the load, you're sharing the thing. It's not the Guerrilla Girls. It's not a team effort. It's everything kind of...
Yeah.
It's a different dynamic.
It's why basketball players a lot of times don't have name or last names on the back of their jerseys, because it's more about a team than one certain person. That's like a fad kind of.
The thing is,
or you think it is anyway.
I think that the thing is with jerseys, using that analogy, there's a reason that the team name's on the front and the player's name is on the back. The team comes first, it's up front, we're playing for the team, but this is me.
Yeah.
You can be an individual, but we're not all, the leader. We're not all the captain. We're not all the superstar, all-star, whatever. We're all playing for the organization.
Right.
But we're not all Michael Jordan.
Well,
we're not all Caitlin Clark, to use a 21st century analogy.
There you go. Interestingly enough, you may think it's selfish, but speaking to a marketing person when I was starting off and trying to figure out my name for my other business, they really recommended that you just use your name, because for some reason it's proven that if you just use your name, most people are the most successful, if I just said that right, but using their name, as their logo, as their title, and it's I don't know why, but it's a proven marketing strategy to use your first and last name.
Well, I think that there is, and I'm not going to say that
You're not using your first name.
I'm not using my first name, I'm using my last name, but I think that for me, it's about branding. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's about, Grandma Moses was catchy because she was his grandma. She was 80 years old. She was, becoming this big famous painter, and she was just Grandma Moses doing her little paintings at the kitchen table, and she became big time. I think there are lots of artists that use fake names or invented names or whatever. most, like John Wayne. John Wayne's name isn't John Wayne. Mark Twain. Mark Twain's name isn't Mark Twain. Samuel Langhorne Clemens. To the point.
Yes, please get
Just
back to the
because
point.
whether your name is your real name or a fake name or a pen name or if I want to use my full name or if I want to use Mr.Burgher or if I want to use Ding Dong Dippy Head as my name, the work has to speak for itself. Although there's the hook. The Grandma Moses was catchy because, that's what she was. I think whether this is right or wrong, I don't know. But I think that for me, using the Mr.Burgher thing is I'm an art teacher. That's what I do. I'm not your regular artist that's coming to the art show. I'm different. And I think that sets me apart because you don't know my first name. Because I go by Mr.Burgher, not by another thing. Not to be grandiose, like I'm the king of the crap castle, but that it's different.
Well, but you're getting away from the topic because it's actually talking about the work, not your name. So the work being selfish, which I get you're talking about the name and how that plays a role, but like I'm wondering, to me, if I thought, and again, I am like far out there and not knowing a ton in the art world, but if I had to look back at artists that we've talked about, I would say most of them, a good number of them, are pretty selfish and pretty successful.
Yes. And I think that, if you're looking at the work of Picasso was, he was making the work. He believed that he was the best. He was, and that paid, that's why he is arguably, yet objectively, the most successful artist of the 20th century. He sold more work than anybody. He made more money than anybody. He had his name on more things than anybody. He had success in every art media, whether it was sculpture or painting or drawing or ceramics or this or that or the photography or anything he did. Money, money, money. Sold. People couldn't get enough. He was a misogynistic prick, but it didn't seem to matter. And again, that's also the time, when things like that were not necessarily as socially unacceptable as they are today. But the fact of the matter is that you look at those types of artists. You look at a Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali was a huge self-promoter. It was all about the brand. It was Salvador Dali. Look at Salvador Dali. I'm going to put on the show because I'm Salvador Dali. I'm going to have my mustache, and I'm Salvador Dali. Salvador Dali without his mustache was just a cuckoo bird that was painting. Like, he had these things, he did these things, he had these behaviors that were all, look at me, look at me, look at me, self-promoter. And whether you're a musician, whether you're an actor, whether you're a visual artist, or whatever kind of art you're in, if you're not willing to put your name on it and you're not willing to say, hey, look at me, then you're being ignored.
Yeah. And I think you have to have a sense of confidence in that world.
And to be honest with you,
a little bit of cockiness, probably.
I'm not real good at that. I'm not real good at, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. I don't have a problem engaging with people, but even like I was mentioning this interaction, even that interaction is a little uncomfortable for me. Like one side of me is like, okay, well, here's my name. And the other side's like, no, this is your brand. This is your name. This is how you're doing it. Don't sell yourself short. Don't hang your head and let them do what they want to do. You tell them how you're going to do it. And so it's very, even in that, to admit, there is that conflict of, this is what they want me to do. Should I do it? Nah.
Do you think that's why you prefer to focus more on your videos? Because you don't have to
I think it's a lot easier, like when somebody makes a crappy comment on a video, it's a lot easier to ignore it or delete it, and I don't delete a lot of comments. If they attack somebody or if it's like over the top,
Yeah.
like inappropriate, I've had like videos with my kids on it, and people will say things that are negative about my kids. I won't keep that. I don't want that. But if you say, "Oh, what do you know? You're a big dumb dummy." Okay, that's fine. I'll let you say that I'm a big dumb dummy, but I'll reply back to you and I'll tell you. Maybe I'll give you more information as to why I'm a big dumb dummy. But anyway, it is what it is, but I think that everybody can sometimes wilt a little bit, like under the pressure of, oh geez, like somebody has a negative.
Some people just thrive off of that,
like negative criticism. But like I wouldn't say that I like a little bit of conflict. You might not know this about me. I like a little bit of conflict, but I also, too much conflict makes it's just uneasy.
I would totally agree with that.
So it's like, like I'm not afraid to mix it up to a certain degree, but there's also a point where it's like, I don't know.
Well, I love that you brought up your own artworks.
Yes.
And why you've maybe like not been in the spotlight. But what's interesting is we just had a conversation today.
Who?
You and I.
Oh.
Well, not in person, but by text.
Oh, yes.
And in that conversation, I said to you to give me your bucket list from now until you die.
Was that for today?
I texted you this today.
I know.
But it was from now until you die. Like, what are your bucket list things?
Yes.
Which none of your things surprised me. One of mine did for you. But
did you ask me that question for this video?
No, but it's just interesting that you brought this up.
Okay.
Because in there you said you would like to see, one of your bucket list items was to see your art in a major show.
Yes.
So obviously that's something you want.
I do. I want to be recognized. I want to be in a big...
But you don't want to put yourself out there. Or it makes you uncomfortable to put the spotlight on.
I think that like when I can control it, like in this video, I control it. I control how I sound. If I don't like something, I can edit it out. If I say the wrong thing, I can try to fix it or finagle it. If I come across too stupid, I can be like, no, we're not doing that one. I've never done that, but I could.
I have never came across too stupid?
Well, I've certainly come across too stupid, but I've never said we're not putting this out there or overly edited anything I've said.
Right.
However, there are times where it's like, okay, like me going on a tangent goes too long or whatever, so it's like, we'll kind of clip this apart. And so I have this ability to edit myself. If you're like in the news, or you're from the Museum of Modern Art, or you're from somewhere important and you're like, hey, let's see your work, and I show you my work and they're like, hey, wow, that's really sweet, I would be like I wouldn't know how to take that. I think that there are people that like my stuff, and there are people that ask me questions about my stuff, and I do my best to try to answer all of the questions, and I can talk all day long about 1,000 different artists probably, but to talk about myself for a half an hour or 15 minutes or 5 minutes continuously would be...
Well, get ready, because I have questions for you.
Oh.
I think that we should let the viewers know a little bit about you. And not that I didn't script this or anything. I'm just thinking about it as we go and questioning. Like, when you said that, I'm like, oh, well, like, first of all, you hardly ever show me your art, which totally backs up what you're saying. So what kind of art is it? If you could get one to show in a major art show, what kind of art would it be?
It would probably be one of my colored pencil drawings. Maybe, like, right now I'm doing a series of things that are kind of pop art, kind of based on movies and maps and things like that, kind of fusing these things that I'm interested in together. I like the maps. I like the movies. I'm putting them together and doing these drawings. And that's great. But my absolute favorite stuff are like my original drawings of, I like drawing people. I like drawing things like that.
Those are my favorite of yours.
And
The ones where you draw people.
I've had as an artist trying to put yourself out there, getting into shows, getting into things, doing whatever, I've had people say, "Oh wow, I really love that painting." It's not a painting, that's a drawing.
I've said that before.
And okay, oh wow, that's a drawing. Like that's wow, how do you make a drawing like that? I'm like, well, blah blah blah. But the point is that to I don't know, to lay all that out there and do that original stuff, and that's kind of I really enjoy that.
So I guess really, so you're working on that goal, I would say, actively?
Yeah, I mean,
is there a piece right now that you...
I'm working most of my energy, that's my artistic energy, is going into that project.
Right.
I've got goals. I got a show coming up in July that's going to be a pretty big show. It's going to have lots of new pieces in it. And so I think a lot of that is getting that stuff ready for that particular show. However, there are other pieces that I do and have done that aren't really on brand with that.
Yeah.
And I would label my stuff as generally, like most of my colored pencil drawings, as pop surrealism, which is kind of like a fusion of Andy Warhol's pop culture ideas infused a little bit with Salvador Dali's dreamlike setting locations. So it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I'm doing, I'm kind of fusing things. And this isn't a me idea. This is an out there in the art world concept.
So where would you, like if you could have it show up in any like major art gallery or art show, where would it be?
I don't know. I mean,
you got to put this out to the universe.
I think that if you're looking at the top of the top, having my work at the Pompidou Center in Paris, having my work at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, having my work at the Tate in London, having my work, at one of those really high-end, prestigious places that says, this is an artist, this is art, really says that, okay, this person has legitimacy. When you show at the Bing Bong Gallery at Fart Haven, Iowa, it doesn't really scream you've made it.
Right.
However, I think that there's
practice,
there's also that enjoyment of having your stuff out there, having your stuff seen by the public, having your stuff accessible to people. And whether it's accessible in a big time show or a little time show, it's really, I think both are important.
Right.
But I also think that, for me, like that top end goal, like that would be awesome to be at a huge place, have my work there. I've never been to New York City, but my work has been in galleries in New York. It's been shown in New York. It's been purchased in New York. I have people that have bought my work who live in New York. So I've got, my artwork is currently in New York. I've never been there. But that's true of lots. Like I've been in shows in Hong Kong. I've been in shows here, there. I mean, shows all over the place, internationally and nationally. Places that I've never been, but I feel like, like there's a piece of me that's there. I think that there's something kind of cool about that too. Right. So.
All right. Well, I myself was curious about those things. So, anything else you want to add to that before I move into our next segment? You talked about yourself for like 10 minutes there.
I'm content.
Okay. Well, I journeyed into the archive this past...
Journey into the archives, our second longest. Anyway.
And the video I pulled up was on Victor Vasarely.
Victor Vasarely, yeah, that's actually, historically, that's been a very well viewed video.
Really?
It's been in the top 11 pretty consistently for the past year, 2 or 3 years.
Well, it's been around for 3 years.
Yeah, and the past couple of years, it's been like Victor Vasarely and Camille Pizarro have been like the two videos that are like Pizarro was always the number one, Vasarely was the number 2 right below that, and I have no idea why so many people are watching a video on Victor Vasarely.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, because it's not like it had this like amazing content or something crazy in there that no one would know.
Well, not a lot of people know a lot about Victor Vasarely. There's not a ton of videos on Victor Vasarely.
Why did you choose to do a video on him then?
Because I think he's fascinating. I think his optical illusions are captivating. How he does it, it looks very machine-like. Mm-hmm. It looks like how in the heck do you come up with that geometry to make that illusion work? Right. So it's not like, it looks smooth. It looks like things are going in and they're coming out, and they're everything in your eye as you rotate around, it looks like this, and then you rotate your eye the other way and it looks like it's going the opposite direction, and it's wild how those optical illusions work, and Victor Vasarely's works.
When was he around? Is he still living?
No, he is not.
Like
the 50s, 60s, 70s, I think. If my memory serves me right.
So was that op art, was that ahead of his time? I mean, it does. It looks like part of it looks like it was done on the computer.
Certainly, I don't know if I would say he's ahead of his time, but he was certainly innovative with the optical illusions that he was generating. He's pretty well known for those orb pictures, and it's all what do certain colors do? Do they recede or do they advance? And he's using these plays of colors to make your eye shift and then pop right back. And, and it
is cool.
It is fascinating to me. And I think because I do a lot with color in my classes, it's okay, who's a really good example of a person that really understands what color does, that's not just, like a lot of times when you talk about color theory, it's like, okay, well, look at this Vincent van Gogh painting, which is great, or look at this Pablo Picasso painting, or look at this, big name that made this painting, and we can, whatever. Victor Vasarely is known enough that you can find his images, but he's not really as well known to make him a household name.
Did he do a lot besides op art, or that would also be like geometric abstract art,
yes.
Right? Op art is defined as that.
Yes.
Were there other types of art that he was known for?
I mean, he did do some figurative things. He did some stuff with zebras. He did some stuff with like things like that, but he wasn't really, I wouldn't say he was known for that.
Well, the reason why I ask is because in your video you brought up how he uses or focuses on emotion through his art or in his art, and like looking at the op art, I don't see that at all. It's more like analytical or geometric or like none of that I would classify as emotional.
Right.
So I don't understand why.
I think to me, I think that there are some of those things that, like, you look at the colors, you look at those things, and there's like an excitement around it. To me, when you see a really good piece,
it brings out emotion.
Correct. Not necessarily that this is a representation of joy, or this is a representation of anger or whatever, but it's, wow, look at that. That is so cool. Like is
Yeah.
a positive. It brings out positive feelings.
An emotional reaction.
Right. I mean, there's
I get
one in
that.
particular where it's like it's a sphere and a cube all at the same time. And that to me is just like Victor Vasarely at his best. And I love that work. And it's like, and I think that sometimes students will say of me as a teacher, well, you make us draw landscapes, you make us draw objective things, you make us draw portraits, you make us draw animals, you make us like, I have students work from photographs, I have them work from their phone, I have them use technology as an artist would in today's artistic world, embedding some of those technologies into how they work because that's how modern artists work. At the same time, I tell them, don't get too abstract, don't get too blah, 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 because doing really, really good abstraction is really, really tough. And there's a reason that Mondrian didn't start with Broadway Boogie Woogie. There's a reason that Mondrian started painting windmills and portraits. And through evolution, he finally, at the end of his career, at the end of his life, gets to Broadway Boogie Woogie. He gets to Victory Boogie Woogie, the last painting that he was to work on. That's him at his peak, where you don't start there, you end up there. And just the same as Victor Vasarely doesn't start with those really wild, jaw-dropping optical illusions. He starts by making zebras and abstracting the zebras and the stripes and doing these black and white patterns and finally getting there. There's a reason that so many artists, and we can go from Bridget Riley all the way through, the whole litany of them. But the fact of the matter is that they don't start becoming great abstraction artists until they're really able to master the basics. They understand lines, they understand shapes, they understand compositions, and finally, they get there. That's how they get there, not by any other method.
Would you say op art is one of the hardest to teach, or what do you find as the hardest to teach at the level that you're teaching at?
I think that to teach anything abstract is very, very difficult because most beginning artists' abstractions look like dog crap.
And when you're saying abstract art,
like letting kids throw paint like Jackson Pollock. Yeah, I mean, there's something.
so just letting them go with their creative
Right.
juices. And
Yeah, I mean, there's something to, okay, yeah, we're going to
really,
throw.
that you say is going to be the hardest.
Well, because, again, most of it's like, to throw paint isn't hard, but to get it to look good, it's like, okay, I threw some paint on there, it's done. Like, to teach the monotony, to teach the focus, to teach the, okay, what do we really want? Like the intensity and the buildup and all of the things that you need. Like a really good Pollock looks different than a really crappy Pollock, or like a student
That's so
knockoff.
subjective, I think.
But it's object. It's very objective. Because you look at layers. Everything in art, and I tell students this all the time, everything in art is about layers. Most artists, I put one layer on and I'm done. Even a pile of dog turds like Robert Ryman has layers. I mean, his work has layers. You can see the layers just by being in front of it. And I have no respect for Robert Ryman, but he understands that. He understands that there's a layering to the work. But most students say, oh, I colored that, it's done. No. Just because you put color on it doesn't mean it's done. You got to color and color and color and color and color. And you're coloring the same chunk maybe 15 times with a little bit of, a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And just to get it just right. And that focus, that that attention to detail is really, really hard in an MTV caffeine infused energy drink in my veins, doing, like everything has to be instantaneous. I want instant gratification. I want an instant product, and I want to win the game, and I want my ribbon and a gold star. And if I get anything less than that, I'm going to cry. And that part of our society does not make the grit and the time and the focus and the attention that is needed to really be, in my opinion, an artist that was like an artist of the caliber of an Andy Warhol. Even Andy Warhol's pictures that were, again, it was a screen print, done. It was still layers of screen prints. It was still layers of material. It was layers of stuff. And that's what makes the work great.
That's why you love teaching it? Or is it hard to teach it because of that?
It's hard to teach it because of that, because but the kids, that once they get it, boom, now we're off.
Well, that's the thing. When you talk about, like, honestly, like, I despised going to art in elementary school, middle school in general. Hated it. Was terrible at it. Hated it. Started going to therapy years ago, and my therapist wants to bring in using art for therapy, and I was like, no, this isn't going to work. This is an awful idea. Now, it is one of my favorite things to do in a therapy session, and it is probably one of the most, like, the thing that creates the biggest shifts. So I think if someone does put the time and the energy and the emotion into it, like, it definitely, but I think it's different for every person.
Right.
I mean, you just, like with school, with teaching, you have to find a way to reach the kid to make art.
Well, it's like so many things, and we can use 1,000 analogies, but it's like this. Like putting me at the drafting table and saying, okay, you're going to do a drawing. Like, I could, if I'm going to do a drawing and I really, like, I'm not a trained ape. I'm not just gonna, just because you say to do a drawing, I wouldn't do it. I'm not like that. It takes time, it takes thought, it takes preparation. There's a lot of things involved. But I think of it like my practice and what I do is like what you might think of like on a basketball court. Like, I would go on a basketball court and just start throwing the ball. What are you trying to do? I'm just trying to get the ball in the hole. And it doesn't matter if I can hook it this way. My technique doesn't matter because I don't have any technique. I'm just throwing the ball. The fact of the matter is that when you have somebody who knows what they're doing, and they're like, no, you hold the ball like this, and you hold the ball like this, and you got to put it like this, and this is your movement. You want to shoot from your elbow or your shoulder or your belly button. Heck, I don't know what you do, but I'm just saying, like, so for somebody to like be trained in the mechanics of the process is, there's a reason that Caitlin Clark can shoot 3-pointers the way she does. Because she knows exactly where to put her hand. She knows exactly what to do. She has this muscle memory.
It's practice.
And it's not just muscle memory of like shot putting the ball. It's like she knows exactly the finesse, exactly the pressure to put on every one of her fingertips at any given time to make the ball roll and do what it's supposed to do. Just like as an artist, I know exactly to explain the pressure on the pencil, to think about okay, here's the paper you want to use, and here's what you want to do, and break it down. And I can break it down into the chromosomal level, just like somebody at your level could probably explain basketball just down to the fine teeth of the matter. But if you're just like, you want to play middle school basketball, okay, here's what you do. You take the ball and you throw it in the hole. Okay, I can do that. But that's the difference between, Larry Bird and me. You know, like, I don't know.
So bringing this back to art, what is your point with this?
I think that a lot of times, if you're just into it for, you know, a stress reliever, I got to take a class, I got to do a thing, you know, it's like, you can slough it off pretty easily.
Right. Just do the bare minimum.
You're just doing the bare minimum. You're just putting in your time. You're putting it in, and you're getting the heck out. Where there are other people that are, you know what? Like, I want to completely engross myself into this. I want to learn every single thing I can about this, and you're going to break it down. And there are people that say, I want you to help me grow as an artist. And I'm like, okay, let me see you draw. And I'm like, okay, let's take a look at this. Like, when I was teaching you how to paint, remember when we were painting? And I'm like,
and I never did do it correctly.
And I'm like, can I show you how to paint? And you're like,
But I don't want to learn to be this great artist. I only do it as like a stress reliever.
Well,
we
were painting in the, like,
criticized.
we were painting a wall. I was showing you how to draw. Remember,
Well, I was talking about a different time where you were. But yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know what you told me. I don't remember what you told me because, again, I don't.
Bad student.
No, it just isn't. It's not something I want to grow in, so you're exactly right. Like,
well, and again, if there's, and for some people, like, they want to grow or they say they want to grow.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, they don't want to grow. They want to be reaffirmed that what they're doing is perfect.
So if you aren't, and maybe we've talked about this
you got to be
before.
coachable.
But so if like an athlete, like they say, if you're like, you can still have like dedication and effort and not have like really great talent, but become a great player.
Right.
Is that the same thing for art?
For sure. 100%. Some of my absolute, like, there's one former student of mine in particular, and I'm not going to say their name, but they were awful. Everything they drew was it was the worst. Hand-eye coordination, awful. Everything was awful. Until one time we had this one particular project where they had to do a landscape drawing, and they had to do it in watercolor. And for whatever reason, the way he put together the landscape, the way he made his buildings was just, it was rough and it was crude and it was wrong, but it was fantastic. And then I gave him the watercolor paints, and he starts, you know, painting it in and doing multicolored things. And like I said, it was sloppy, it was wrong, it was awful, like, technique-wise, but the work was at the same time captivating. It was captivating.
Maybe there's still hope for me then.
And so I'm like, I'm going to put some of these in an art show. And I took some to an art show. You ended up winning like second place or third place or something. He wasn't like, everybody puts him on his shoulders and, you know, chants their name at the end of the thing. But it was still like, this kid went from, like, every single day, like, they came in, and it was like, from that point forward, I'm like, okay, everything else you do, and they were in, from what I recall, like a painting class. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to modify every project so you can basically do this. And we're going to adapt your style to this. Because, like, you can do this. This is fantastic. And let's grow off of this instead of, okay, now I'm going to try to teach you how to draw or paint other, you know. But let's start from here and then maybe gradually grow. Anyway, the point of the story is, I think that there are awful artists that can, with time, effort, energy, focus, or they're going to develop the skills if they're practicing with focus if they're working in the right direction, if they're getting some level of advice and they're open to being wrong,
Right.
they're like, okay,
Teachable.
look, yeah, like I've worked with some great athletes, I've worked with some great artists, I've worked with some really great people in different areas of greatness. But the ones that are really inspirational, the ones that go forward and really have something to show for themselves, in my view, are the ones that are like, you know what, I don't know everything. There's something that I can learn here. And, the ones that are like, I want to do it my way, and I'm only going to do it this way, and this is what I do, so I'm doing it my way, and I'm right and you're wrong. What the hell do you know, art teacher? Okay. And
I think criticism is a hard thing to accept. I mean, I think that's really, you really have to do some work to take criticism and
for sure
use it. And I think
it is difficult.
And especially in today's, I think we're all just very reactive and defensive, and I don't know, it's hard.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that there are those things you've got to, again, it goes with the approach. I mean, you can't just say, this is all wrong, because most of the time it's not.
Right.
It's not all wrong. But if you're like, okay, can we just tweak? And I've said this before, you don't have to go from 5 to 10.
Yes.
You just have to go. Just give me.
But that is not how our society works. We want to be here to here, and we don't want to have to do the work. We just want magically to happen, and we don't have to wait for it.
And that's just not how most things work. Most things in life require small incremental growth over time. And that's one of the things that kind of drives me bananas about most schools and how they do art classes, because you don't have small incremental growth over time. It's, you have art for, you're taking an art class, okay, we're going to get this painting class done in 8 weeks. So you start here, end there, you got 8 weeks. Well,
it's hard to get done. You need to teach
you can get things done, but you're not going to grow in 8 weeks. It's going to be hard to grow in 16 weeks. Over the course of a year, you've got 32 weeks. In 32 weeks of focus and energy, you might grow a little bit. And then the next year, it doesn't fit my schedule. Sorry, it doesn't work. Okay, well, you're not going to.
Right.
No, and that's not just an art thing. That's a math thing. That's an English thing. That's a everything.
Well, it's everything in life thing.
Yeah. And so if you're really passionate about it, more and more times it's the case where, okay, if you really want to become an artist and you really, really want to grow and you really, really want to get better, then you have to find opportunities to get learning.
Mr. Burgher, I think you should be taking your own advice here, because you lately have been doing it because you've been focusing on these art shows, but you tend to
for me
disengage.
But I'm not at a point in my life where I'm learning.
But you have a goal that's in front of you, and you want to be. I mean, it's on your bucket list to be in a major art gallery or museum or whatever. So
a show. I don't need
a show. Okay.
I don't need to be a part of the permanent collection. Although
you're gonna have to put in some more work.
But you're right. I mean, you can't.
Well, it's hard to do because you're a teacher. You have this channel. You have lots of things going on. But
for me, I mean, and like everybody throughout time, you look at like someone like Picasso. Picasso was able to selfishly, going back to our original comment, selfishly, he was working on his work. He didn't give a shit about his relationships. He didn't care about his kids. He was maybe one of the worst fathers on the planet. He didn't care about his friends. He didn't care about any associates other than those that were promoting and selling his art. He had money and wealth to be able to do things, but all of his attention was put back into making the work. You look at even not even to that degree. You look at someone like, that jumps into my mind, Norman Rockwell, an American legend of art. Well, Norman Rockwell was divorced he was divorced twice, married 3 times, because he put his energy into the art. He spent his time, okay, well, Thanksgiving, Christmas, hurry up and open the stuff because I got to go out to the studio. Yeah. He was not engaged with relationships. He wasn't engaged with his family. He wasn't engaged in those things. He was engaged in the work.
Right.
And for me, like, I'm engaged in the work, but I can also walk away from it. I'm engaged in the channel, but I can also walk away from it. I'm engaged with,
Me?
all of the things. I'm engaged with you, but I'm also willing to walk away from it.
Oh, you're funny. Very funny. So thanks for watching, everyone. We hope to see you next time. We hope in the meantime that you'll hit like, share, and subscribe and journey into our archives and find some videos that call to you.
Absolutely. And thanks for watching. See you next time.